Merry meet everybody. I hope you're all okay. So, I've been watching some of your blogs, and a lot of you, or a couple of you, sorry, have been posting blogs about a challenge, a pagan challenge. So, I did some digging around and I thought, I want to get in on this. This sounds quite fun. Not only so that you guys can watch, but actually for me as well. I think it would be quite interesting for me to upload a video once a week and then be able to watch it and reflect on it. And so I looked it up online and I found out that it was through YouTube Pagans on Facebook, and that it's 52 questions and you answer one a week. And the first one is, how did you find your path? So I'm going to tell you a bit about how I found my path. I know I briefly mentioned it in one of my videos, Getting to Know Me, I think it's called, or something like that. But yeah, so how did I find my path? Well, for the people that don't know, and I don't mind talking about it, I was adopted when I was 4 by 2 Catholic people, and I was then put into care for whatever reason. I'm not going to go into that on this, but I was put into care when I was about 11 years old. Now, for 2 of those years, I stayed in the location near where I'd been brought up, but then when I was just before my 13th birthday, I moved to where I live now. And I stayed in a children's home for 5 years. And whilst I was living there, I had an art therapist that I saw every other day. And the therapy was really, really good. I don't remember anything about it, to be fair. I didn't up until 5 years ago, I didn't remember a lot about my life before I'd moved to where I lived. It was almost as if my memories had been wiped in a way, and I'd learnt to let go of the pain and move on with my life. So then, about 5 years later, so this is about 4 years ago, I got a job working in a children's home, and it turned out that the guy that was my art therapist was now working at that home as an art therapist. So it was kind of weird at first, this guy who used to be my therapist is now my colleague. And I remember sitting down in the kitchen with a brew, and he had a tattoo on his arm of a tree of life. And I remember asking him about it, and just just inquiring about it, and he'd said that he was quite a spiritual person, and he'd done a lot of things. He'd gone around and done a lot of meditation retreats and things like that. And then that summer, I was introduced to a lady called Patricia Brooks, who was a very well-known tarot reader, and I had literally been dragged to a festival, a health and spiritual festival, by my best friend, and she was into all of this kind of thing, and I wasn't. I wasn't. When I went to this festival, I wasn't. And I can honestly say that when I left that building that day, I was not the same person that I was when I walked in. I ended up having a reading with Patricia, and it was the first time I'd had a reading, and everything unfolded after I had that reading. I remember going to work a few weeks later and talking to this guy, and talking to him, and I asked him about the therapy that he'd given me, and he told me that a technique he had used with me, well, one of the techniques, is that he'd used a method so that I would forget. Some of my memories were blocked out, basically, to help me move on with my life. Now, whether he did that through spiritual means or if it's actually a type of psychology, I don't know. But what I do know is after he told me that, my memory started to unfold. And that's when I realised that my path to being pagan started a lot sooner than I thought. Because I originally thought it was that day that I met Patricia. That's when I believed, should I say, that I had become a spiritual person. I'd opened up and I'd learned all these things. But the more the time grew on, the more I started getting flashbacks and started getting memories of things that happened to me when I was a child. An example of this is when I was on my path to finding out I was a witch, This was about a year after I'd had the reading from Patricia. Now, I remember when I was very little, I must have been about 10 or 11, I remember going onto my dad's computer and looking up Book of Shadows, and I remember emailing a lady about the Book of Shadows, and I then found out that I now lived at the bottom of the road where this lady lived. Now, without giving you details of where I live, I was living 6 hours away from where I live now. And, you know, some people could go, oh, you know, Luna, that could happen, that's possible. You know, I don't think that is. I think that there's fate lies with that, you know, everything happens for a reason, because I've got a really good relationship with that lady now. She doesn't remember me sending her the email, so that's interesting. But I've got the copy of the email on my computer. So that was just an example, basically. I mean, the universe sent messages to me. I found out I was a witch through the universe. The moon, especially. The moon used to wake me up a lot. So anyway, as I was saying, you know, I started remembering things that had happened to me from a child. So there was one memory that came back to me, which was when I must have been about 5, and I was watching Lion King. And there's a bit in the Lion King when Mufasa says to Simba, you know, when we die, we come back as something else. And I remember saying that to my mum and dad at the time, and them completely closing it off. I remember when I used to go to sleep, I used to go to this place in my dreams, and I remember seeing what I would describe as an angel. And it's interesting now, because when I do my meditations, I can automatically tap into that place and I can go there. So how did I find my pagan path? Or how did I find my path? I found my spiritual path when I was a child. How? I don't know. Was I born with it? I don't know. But my memories were blocked for 10 years, and it wasn't until I met Patricia that they started to unfold. My path to being a witch, I would say, happened 3 years ago. But again, I then have to question if I was emailing a witch when I was 11 or 12, asking about a Book of Shadows, how early on was it? So practically I've been on my path for 3.5, 4 years now, going on to 4 years. And but I think that's my question answered. That's the question answered. I don't want to go into too much other stuff, because I'm worried that, you know, next week's question, my husband, next week's question might, you know, I might accidentally answer it. So that is the answer to my question. That's how I found my path. In true honest, I found my path from as little as I can remember. But that, you know, that's the story of what happened to me. And it will be interesting to see, actually, if this has ever happened to somebody else. Have your memories of your path been blocked for a certain amount of years, and then did they come back to you? It's almost as if my powers and my skills have become developed more, because maybe the universe felt that I was ready to do it now. It was just before I got engaged to my husband as well. So, and we ended up getting married on the summer solstice, which at the time I didn't know was a summer solstice. So, interesting. It's quite interesting to talk about it, actually, and to be able to specifically focus on just that one question. So it'd be interesting to see what you guys think, and to keep watching your videos. I think people are setting up like a hashtag, so it's easier to link up with each other. So I'm looking forward to watching some of your videos, definitely, and to see if there's anyone out there that's got the same sort of story as me. It's times like this where I really wish that I could do videos like this and you could see me. I am kind of starting to get a little bit annoyed that it's just a tree that I have. And I don't think it's confidence anymore that's affecting it. It's more fear of being seen and being caught. I think that's what scares me a little bit. So I'm in no ways in the I'm in no way, my tree's offended. I'm no way in the broom closet, not at all. I just have to be careful with the situation where I am in my life at the moment, where I work and things like that. So I hope you all understand, and I apologise that you've all had to stare at a tree, and hopefully just by listening to what I'm saying has made you stay and watch. So love and light to you all, and I'm looking forward to watching your videos. Okay, bye.